Hi, welcome to Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill. Follow me on Instagram, find out what I'm doing in my studio on a more regular basis. Sneak peeks of projects ahead of time. Don't forget to subscribe and select the option to be notified as soon as a video is uploaded. Today, we have a mixed media mini tutorial, The Darkest Night. This one is great for beginners, and it's great for a Create With Me. Grab your choice of mini, navy and teal paint, stars, a stencil, and some modeling paste, and you're set to create your own. Post your mini to my Facebook group, Mixed Media Creations, when you're done. I'd love to see it. So I start out with a gessoed card. Now this is ATC size, which is 2.5 by 3.5. And it's been gessoed with a couple layers of gesso. It is done on packaging from my stencils. Now today I grabbed dollar store craft paint, and I love this navy color. So I'm putting a coat of this dark color on here. Now the only problem that I found with the dollar store craft paint, some of them are a little thin, less pigmented than others, and over time and very short period of time they tend to glob or kind of get things in them, whereas craft paint that my ceramic coat, I've had them for 20 years and that hasn't happened to them. So I'm getting a nice even coat. Now I'm going to attempt to get some crackle, and I have Demco crackle. Now I've had great success with this, and I've had great failures with this. It's fairly unpredictable, and as I do these mini projects, I want to figure out exactly why. I'm thinking, does it matter how thick or thin you put it on? Does it matter on the paint? I've never done it with this cheaper paint. Does that matter? We'll have some of our answers as the video progresses. So once I put the Demco on, it has to dry for at least 30 minutes. And I find that it needs to dry on its own. Then, once it's completely dry, I'm going to put a layer of another paint. And again, this is the same dollar store cheap craft paint, and I'm really loading up my brush. I want a really wet brush. Now again, if you're using thicker paint, you're going to have to thin it down, and I didn't think I needed to thin it down here, but you'll see. So I'm going to zoom in closely because the crackles will start almost immediately, so that's perfect. You do not want to go over it twice. And here's where I did it wrong. Do you see how I went over it and it kind of globbed there? It was like, ah! But I moved on, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and you can see the crackles that are forming. And it kind of sort of worked, but not to the extent that I wanted it to work. I'll try again on another video. That's why this isn't one of the prompts for you to follow in the Create With Me version of this. Now these stars are embellishment stars that I created in a previous video, making textured embellishments. So I have this teal paint, and I'm just very much dry brushing on top of the texture to get that teal color in, because I'm thinking this navy blue and teal is a lovely color combination, and I want that. At this point in time, I'm thinking I'm going to leave the sentiment on there that says trust and use that, but you'll see later I peeled it off and then softened the residue with a baby wipe and got all of that off. So I end up with 2 blank stars. So very much dry brushing. It would have been easier if I had just taken off the word here before, but I wasn't sure that that's where I wanted to go just yet. As I say, this video is pretty much real time, and that's because I want to give you the sense of how much time it actually takes. Because I think those sped up videos, I know when I started, it really played with my mind because I thought, how come I can't get it done in the same time? Now I'm absolutely loving the look of these textured stars, the navy against the background. But I'm thinking, okay, I didn't get enough texture in the background. The background is looking a little bit blah. So I decided to get a star stencil. And this goes back to my folk art days, which is about 20 years, some of my first stencils. And I'm putting these stars along this side, which I'm kind of covering up that mess that I had there. And that's something, if there's a part of your page that you don't like, that is always a place where you could put something else to kind of camouflage it. So now I'm just playing with the stars, and as you can see, the sentiment is off that top star. And I'm just going to glue these textured stars down with gel medium, and that's what I'm applying kind of off screen here. And because I'm going to make these into magnets, and even if they were just regular ATCs, I like the idea of having them hang over a little bit. So I'm kind of playing with where I want them. I also contemplated stamping some script stamp on that teal background. But I decided, you know what? You do that a lot. Let's just do it differently. Now, when you're creating your mini, you can add as many things as you want. Just, basically keep those minimum supplies that I've listed, and you can incorporate them any which way. So I reached into my box of sentiments and I came up with this one that was perfect for stars. And as soon as I put it on here, the white on this and the white on the stars, everything kind of, it just like, yeah, this is going to work. So I have some black archival paint, and I'm applying to the edges just to darken them up and make it stand out. I also put some along the outside of the stars off camera, and you might notice there's a difference. Initially there was teal paint there, but I wanted it to pop off that background more, so I wanted the black. So the boldness of the script that I have here really matches with the black around the stars. And again, if you have it in one place, you want it in another. For the background, I could have also done some splattering. And I probably would have chosen the navy. I wouldn't have, or maybe white, but I wouldn't have introduced any other color here. So I'm gluing these sentiments down with gel medium. And since everything here is acrylic paint, there's no water activated stuff. I don't have to worry at all. And again, I'm putting the sentiment this way, that way. I'm not trying to make them all straight and the same. And, that just adds interest to the card. Deciding I want to make the outside edge just a little darker. And you can see from one side to the next, just that little bit of extra added. So don't be afraid to do it twice if you're not getting, the color that you want. A lot of times I want to reach and I want to edge them right off the bat a little bit. Somehow that just helps me figure out what my next step might be. So I grabbed some pearlized paint. This is Martha Stewart pearlized paint, and I got a whole set of these, and I love them. There's different colors, but this one's just pearlized, and I just want to paint the stars. I want to keep them white, but I want a little bit of shine and a little bit of shimmer. Thought about silver, I thought about gold, but gold I didn't want to introduce the yellow, and silver I like the idea of white because it matches the backgrounds of the sentiment that I glued on. Now, when you're making your mini, you could do it as I'm doing it, or you could make different choices. I'm just giving you some of the options and some of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. I forgot. I did decide to do splatters after all. Now, while it would have been easier to do the splatters first, before I glued everything down, it's not impossible after the fact to splatter. I just don't want those splatters on top of my letters, so I'm just cutting a Post-it note and putting a mask on top of them. Easy peasy. And I think, I splatter with, first I splatter with that dark navy, and then I splatter with some of the pearlized paint, in part because I like the little shimmer that it gives, and in part because, well, it was already on the mat. Now all that leftover paint, I just grab a coffee filter and I soak it up. And those become the beginnings of a collage treatment or beginnings of another mini in the future. There's no need to waste, and I find just having those handy or blank pages handy makes that really easy. I'll put a link to Martha Stewart's paints and a link as well to my influencers store, where you get a whole visual of all the things that you would find if you came to my studio. Please always check prices and check the shipping. You don't want to have to pay more than you need to. Now, using a Fineliner bottle, and I love this bottle. I got it, it was a Christmas present, and I just absolutely love it. I have a white, a gold, and a black, and I'm just edging around the ATC just to frame it a little bit more. If you don't have a Fineliner bottle, you can use a Pigma pen or a gel pen to go around it. Now I've decided that I am going to turn these into fridge magnets. So I had this, it was advertising for the realtor that sold our house, and I'm just going to cut it a little bit thinner, narrower than the ATC, and I'm just using that card there as a guide for that. Sometimes I make ATCs, and I actually do trade them with other artists, or I give them away when I've taught a class. And then I put my contact information and social media contacts on the back. In this case, I want to turn them into fridge magnets, and as such, they make great gifts. I have a filing cabinet in my studio, and it's magnetic, so I have these hanging on there. And it's just another way of displaying your art. I like this soft magnet because it's not going to scratch a fridge or a surface. Whereas some of the round ones, I'm not sure that they would. I'm using Gorilla Glue to glue this down. It's kind of a smooth, plasticky surface, so I just brought out the big guns for that. And here's a close-up of the finished mini. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to post your mini to my Facebook group, Mixed Media Creations. Bye.